lot has changed. I mean, obviously, the nature of the country has changed a lot. Just how open it is. In those days, you didn't even have the concept of a tourist visa, for instance, in Saudi Arabia, and we wanted to visit something like Al, and it was very challenging to get passes to it. And so the country was much more closed in those days. I think it was mostly only business people coming through. Today, it's an open, thriving tourist destination. You have incredible mega projects popping up all over the place. The world is coming here for sports and entertainment, to do business. The quality of the people has changed radically. We were, constantly impressed today by how smart and hardworking everyone is that we deal with, how earnest they are about building a stronger country and an economy. So huge shifts, and it's been really fun to witness it along the way. So I'm already a football investor. I've been investing in football for the last 5 years. For me, football is it's a religious entity. It is something that is so important and has so much passion and heart tied into it, and is so powerful across the world. It's a political tool, it's an economic tool, and yet I've never seen something that has so much influence that is so badly run and so inefficient, oftentimes very corrupt, so badly broken. And so my view was we could take a lot of what we know about how to run an efficient business and bring it to football. Obviously adapt it, because there's a lot of emotion here, there's a lot of tradition, there's things you can't touch or change. But that brought me to football. I was always a fan, and I think one day I decided just to kind of get out of the stands and get into the owner's box, and that would give me a chance to really affect change within these clubs that I love. So I started with Cadiz in Spain, as you know, and then I started to build a broader, what we'd call multi-club group. This club in Saudi Arabia is part of that, and then we'll probably be adding more clubs to it. It's easy to give a business case for Saudi Arabia as to why we're excited about the market here and investing in football. Saudi Arabia has the highest penetration of football fans in the world. I think 75% of Saudis consider themselves football fans. Even in a place like Brazil, which is football mad, it's only 65%. The country is investing sectorally in the football space. We're going to see incredible investment ahead of the World Cup in 2034. You see this incredible stadium being built here in Dammam for Al-Qadisiyah, and obviously a World Cup destination. Other AFC and other things coming up as we go. And so I think that'll be a kind of a clear trajectory of investment. This is a country that has a strong footballing history. You are always in the World Cup. You perform well. It's a country that has a fan base that's built in of fans. So, there are 35 million people here who are true football fans, as opposed to a market like the UAE or Qatar, where there's a very small football fan group. And the Saudi players are really strong. So, I mean, we believe that we can develop a young crop of Saudi players that we can sell into other teams, but also ultimately export back into Europe. So all of the kind of key fundamental conditions are there. As to why we invested in Al-Kholood, so we weren't given the opportunity to invest in a lot of the big name clubs that have some of the largest fan bases. When we went through the privatization process, there were only 3 clubs made available. It was Al-Kholood, Al-Oraba, and Al-Kholood. So Al-Oraba was obviously relegated, so that became irrelevant. But we did visit all of them. We went to Sakaka, we went to Najran, we did the whole tour. We came, of course, to Arras. We liked Al-Kholood a lot, but it was, obviously very far south, quite far from the center. But what we really appealed to us was Al-Kholood, because it sits within a vibrant region of Al-Qasim. Everywhere I go in Saudi Arabia, everyone says, I'm from Arras, I'm from Qasim. There's this huge diaspora and kind of alumni network of Arras and Al-Qasim sitting in all the major cities. And so that gives us a really nice base of fans to draw upon. And then we really liked, actually, that the club was a newer club. It was one without a huge amount of tradition, only one season in the first division. And so that gave us a lot of opportunities to be more experimental. If we were to buy an existing club like, say, Al-Shabaab, there's already a very large fan base, expectations are very high, so you can really only go down. And there's a lot of pressure, and so that means that the players are under pressure, the coaches are under pressure. Whereas with Al-Kholood, we're a smaller fan base, and it's kind of all upside for us. We can build a new fan base, we can build a new brand, we can build a new image for the club, we can do things more creatively and entrepreneurially that we couldn't do in a more kind of locked-in older club. And so you're seeing us already. We've changed the badge. We're going to obviously change the facilities and upgrade the quality of them. We're using new coaching techniques and data science techniques. So we're able to bring all that to bear because this is a newer, fresher territory as opposed to a old, incumbent kind of stodgy club. Saudi Arabia has kind of burst onto the scene in most people's minds recently. Obviously, the league has a much longer history, but a lot of, I think, global fans and players weren't thinking about the league. So I like to think about the league in kind of three stages. There was kind of the league up until when Ronaldo came, and that kind of put it on everyone's radar, and that opened the door to a lot of top-tier global players coming into the league. And then I would think that, you know, the third phase, hopefully, of the league is when we came in as part of a privatization that will require that clubs become financially sustainable, run institutionally, and are not kind of public vessels, but something that's run like a true business. And I think that will usher in a new era of clubs here in Saudi Arabia, or a new era for the league. Cadiz sits in a league that's very talented. La Liga and even the second division have some of the best clubs in the world. From that experience, I learned how do you compete against really big clubs with a very modest budget. So historically, Cadiz would usually be one of the lowest budgets in the league, say 45, 50 million euros every year, and we're battling against the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona. In one season, Real Madrid had a 680 million euro payroll, and so we're used to being a minnow in a school of sharks, and I think we'll face similar conditions here in Saudi Arabia with the PIF clubs, and of course with the kind of mega project clubs, Al-Ula, Daria, Neom, and of course, you know, Qadisiyah, and then there's already some really great clubs as well that are going to be very challenging, including our opponent tonight, Ettifaq, Town, and others. And so, so Cadiz kind of taught me how you compete against the big boys using data science, using great scouting and player and talent development rather than buying expensive players. Cadiz also was an experiment in bringing a club that was relatively unknown to the world to many fans around the world. We started with 500,000 social media followers when I bought into the club. Today we have 18 million. We've been able to bring it to fans in the Middle East, in Africa, in Asia, particularly China, Europe. And so it's been a really fun experiment to take something like that, and that's exactly where Al-Kholood sits, a team that no one outside of Saudi Arabia has ever heard of, and bring it to fans around the world as we're doing. And so a lot of lessons from the Cadiz experience, but also certainly it's going to be a challenge in Saudi Arabia just as it was in Cadiz. So, I mean, again, I think that when we're looking at Saudi players today, we're really trying to go after players that are in that kind of U21 earlier groups. And so it's names that are not yet famous today. I think we've got some really great players that have come in, Ramzi, Dosari, Aliwa, Hatam, others. So I'm really excited about the Saudi players that we've recently announced as part of our club. But we will continuously be going after younger and younger players. So the players that we'll be exporting out of Al-Kholood are not players that anyone knows today. And hopefully they're people that come through our U21 team or out of even our academy at a junior level, and then one day make it to the big 4 or 5 teams in this country as well as abroad. So I think, like I said, there are these 3 phases of Saudi football, and I think Cristiano was very important for a time in opening the door, proving to foreign talent that they could come here, that it was livable. As I said, until very recently, very few people had ever visited Saudi Arabia, and a lot of the global news narratives are unfair and misrepresentative of what is really going on the ground here, and so people didn't fully understand the kingdom. He opened that door. He normalized coming here. And so during that kind of phase 2 of evolution, you had a lot of big names who were probably overpaid relative to their market value. I think if you go on transfer market today, Ronaldo is worth about 5 million euros. So they're being overpaid relative to their true value. But I think it was kind of a necessary step to get us into the mainstream and for global players to think seriously about the kingdom. I hope now with our privatization process, we're entering a new phase where we don't need to go out and overpay for older stars. We can get younger players who are in their early 20s that redirect their career from Europe or South America or elsewhere into Saudi Arabia and see this as a logical evolutionary step in their career where they're getting great coaching, great sports science, great infrastructure, nutrition, whatever it is. And that's the type of player we're targeting. We're not going after these 35-year-old end-of-career European or South American players. We're going after young 20-somethings, 21, 22, 25, who otherwise should be playing in the championship. They should be playing in La Liga. They should be playing in the top tiers of Europe. But they're coming to us because they know we're going to treat them as global best practice professionals. We're going to give them the best infrastructure, coaching, and they're actually going to accelerate their career, not decelerate it. And so our job is to develop players that we can sell for much more than we bought them for. And that's a necessity if you're running a club that's financially sustainable and not dependent on government subsidies to survive. So that's what will be imposed upon this league through our phase. That's our objective. I mean, it'll take time, and it takes time to build an academy, develop the infrastructure, develop the coaching infrastructure. We inherited a club in Al-Kholood that has essentially no academy, the worst facilities in all of the SPL, and maybe the worst facilities across the top 3 divisions of Saudi football. So it can't happen overnight. But our objective is that one day people think about Al-Kholood as a almost branded talent factory, that when you get a player out of Al-Kholood, it's the equivalent of getting a player out of the, Barcelona Academy or out of the Red Bull system. It's a place where there's just a certain standard of excellence that's expected of talent, and therefore when they come out, they're going to hit that level, and it's not this huge volatility in performance. So in order to do that, it starts at the top, and it starts with us hiring the best possible coaches and talent developers. And so, for instance, I've brought on board, we've not publicly announced it, but I brought on board a guy named Robert Einhorn. Robert was previously the CEO of AZ Alkmaar, which I think is one of the best run clubs in Europe. It's a club in the Netherlands, like a little brother, let's say, to Ajax, but one that actually develops better talent than Ajax and has been more profitable at selling players into Europe out of its academy. And so we do not have the luxury to buy star players. I cannot pay 1 or 2 months of Ronaldo's salary is more than my entire payroll, right? So there's no way I can compete on buying star players. I have to develop them. And then to be financially sustainable, I have to sell some of them, as few as possible, into the bigger clubs in order to raise revenue for the development of our club. And so our objective is to be that talent factory and to be the place where the young Saudi talent, as well as in the future global talent, comes to us first for development and then moves on to the regional clubs or even abroad. I was involved in the Trump campaign. This is public record. And then I've been asked to take a senior role in the White House, but it's not a role that requires me to have a full-time role. So I've been helping out around the ends and the edges in the White House and helping to think particularly about how America reindustrializes itself and makes itself a leader in the technologies of the future. That's something I'm passionate about and something I've experienced in doing on my day job, and it's something that I'm bringing to bear at the White House as well. But that's a part-time job. My full-time jobs are investing in technology companies and running football clubs. Not at all. I've been here many times. So my day job is venture and technology investing. We work closely with Aramco across many of their different groups. We work with some of the biggest families here. So I come to Dammam, Khobar very frequently and love to be here. The near future has one objective: survival. It was a very challenging transfer of ownership. I'm sure there's been plenty of reports about it in the media, but we're only just finally getting full control over the club, its finances. There was a huge amount of debt that we inherited from the previous management team. We had to clear that so we could get our financial efficiency certificate. It was a very challenging last few months. Most of us have not been sleeping at all. So our objective this season is singularly to survive, and maybe even the objective for the next couple seasons. This league is only getting stronger. You've got teams like Neom already up, but Al-Ula will come up soon. Daria will come up soon. So it's only going to get harder. And as I say, I think the talent level at the bottom is going to raise, and the talent level at the top is only getting stronger. So right now, the objective is cement ourselves in this league, don't get relegated, and then we move on to thinking about developing infrastructure. So the next project for me, as soon as we close this transfer window, is upgrading our infrastructure and making sure my players have access to the best possible standards of training facilities. And then we worry next about how do we start to build some of that lower tier infrastructure around coaching and our academy and the U21 program. So right now we're really building at the bedrock up. And actually, if we just bought a club that was new, it would have been better. We're digging ourselves out of the ground and out of the grave, really, in order to just get ourselves to where we are today. The food here is phenomenal. I like kapsa. I think probably that's probably my favorite food. But again, I've been living and working in Saudi Arabia since 2007. For me, this feels like home. It's always shocking to me. Again, today, a friend invited us over to their home here in Dammam, how hospitable the Saudis are, how generous. We were invited to an event in Arras last week by some of the councils of elders. There was food everywhere, camel and lamb. Everything's wonderful. So I'm deeply, deeply honored that people would treat us with such respect and have and such hospitality. I wish I could say that people in America treated people with as much respect and hospitality as they do here. So it's really lovely to be here and to eat and to enjoy and certainly to watch football with our friends in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I mean, I think, I'm not doing anything different than what we would do in Cadiz or other cities. I love to meet our fans. If you don't have a good relationship with your fans and you're not spending time with them and learning about what they care about and what matters to them and how they'd like to see the club evolve, then you're living in this tiny little glass box for owners and you're separated from the people that matter the most. And so I will, as often as possible, and you saw even today, I sent out a tweet to invite fans of Al-Kholood to come to join us at the match. We gave away 100 tickets. We probably could have given away 1,000 tickets. That's how many messages I got. And so the point is, I think the fans here are hungry for a new kind of ownership, one where where the president comes down to their level, interacts with them, and cares about their interests. I can't please everyone. I can't satisfy everyone's demands. I'm sure someone's going to be unhappy. And certainly all that matters most is that we perform on the field. And as I said, it's going to be a very challenging season. So I want to set expectations as low as possible. But there are things that I can control. I can't control if the ball goes in the goal necessarily, but I can control how I treat people, how I speak with them, how much I bring them into the under the table workings of the club. And historically, there's been this big black box where we were separated from our fans. I want to bring them into the owner's box. I want to bring them into the stadium where we talk about the issues we're facing and transparently communicate with them the challenges we have as well, and let them understand why we're making decisions rather than us just doing things and them having to live with the consequences. So it's been really phenomenal. They've treated me with a huge amount of respect. The interactions online have been phenomenal. The interactions, as you mentioned, in person in Arras and in other places, Buraida, hopefully here tonight, have been really positive. So I just cannot say enough about how wonderful the Saudi fans and of course, our Al-Kholood and our Arras fans have been through this process. Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here with you guys.